our education system is predicated on the idea of academic ability. And there's a reason. The whole system was invented around the world. There were no public systems of education really before the 19th century. They all came into being to meet the needs of industrialism. So the hierarchy is rooted on two ideas. Number one, that the most useful subjects for work are at the top. So you were probably steered benignly away from things at school when you were a kid, things you liked, on the grounds you would never get a job doing that. Is that right? Don't do music, you're not going to be a musician. Don't do art, you won't be an artist. Benign advice. Now, profoundly mistaken. The whole world is engulfed in a revolution. And the second is academic ability, which has really come to dominate our view of intelligence because the universities designed the system in their image. If you think of it, the whole system of public education around the world is a protracted process of university entrance. And the consequence is that many highly talented, brilliant, creative people think they're not, because the thing they were good at school wasn't valued or was actually stigmatized. And I think we can't afford to go on that way. In the next 30 years, according to UNESCO, more people worldwide will be graduating through education than since the beginning of history. More people. And it's the combination of all the things we've talked about, technology and its transformational effect on work, and demography and the huge explosion in population. Suddenly, degrees aren't worth anything. Isn't that true?
The limits of this system. The first experiment I did out of Newcastle was actually done in India, and I set myself an impossible target. Can Tamil-speaking 12-year-old children in a South Indian village teach themselves biotechnology in English on their own? And I thought, I'll test them, they'll get a 0, I'll give them material, I'll come back and test them, they'll get another 0, I'll go back and say, yes, we need teachers for certain things. I called in 26 children, they all came in there, and I told them, look, there's some really difficult stuff on this computer. I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't understand anything. It's all in English, and I'm going. So I left them with it. I came back after 2 months, and the 26 children marched in looking very, very quiet. I said, well, did you look at any of the stuff? They said, yes, we did. Did you understand anything? No, nothing. So I said, well, how long did you practice on it before you decided that you understood nothing? They said, we look at it every day. So I said, for 2 months you were looking at stuff you didn't understand. So a 12-year-old girl raises her hand and says, literally, apart from the fact that improper replication of the DNA molecule causes genetic disease, we've understood nothing else.
As a mother, there was a sense of urgency when I was in a position of having to make a choice of where to send my children to school. They had been in a Montessori school, and that was wonderful, and I loved it, but I didn't see the opportunity for the long term.
So I went to the school where our daughter was attending and found the very best teacher at that school and asked him, how soon should we move the boys? And he immediately replied, as soon as possible. So I asked why, and he said, well, once they've had a lot of freedom, they won't like sitting at a desk and being talked at for 8 hours a day. Before I could even think, I blurted out, I don't blame them. And he looked down at the ground for the longest time, and I thought I'd offended him. He looked up, he had tears in his eyes, and he said, I don't either.
Jeff and I decided we wanted to create our own community of learners. We didn't know what that would look like, and we started to pull best practices from all over, not knowing what we were creating, but knowing that we were creating something that didn't exist before.
There are really two modes of thought about how to improve education. There's the reform movement. We're going to take traditional education, public or private, and change it. And then there's the disruptive movement. We're going to actually create something entirely new from scratch.
Curiousness is basically the thing that seems to trump on all counts. It seems like if you just can be curious instead of just staying where you are, you will explore a lot more and you will get a lot farther. My first hard math I ever tried was calculus. And I'm like, what's in this? And I got taught it, and now I do math. Now math is a breeze for me because that's how it does. You have to be curious.
Really, the whole concept of students teaching themselves has been incremental. It's been a matter of trial and error. I know I was inspired when a number of years ago I met Sugata Mitra at the very early stage of his hole-in-the-wall experiments, where he was putting a computer terminal in some of the poorest slums and villages around the world and finding out that students could teach themselves, literally with no teacher, learn at a faster and better rate than the best private schools in the countries. So I was inspired by Sugata, and I kept that in the back of my mind. And as Laura and I began to experiment at Acton Academy, we saw that what he was learning and seeing in some of the poorest villages of the world was true here as well.
The teachers don't even answer very many questions, and I think that gives us a little more freedom.
Like, say, why is there a new schedule? They say, well, that's a great question. Guides don't answer questions, though, so you have to try and figure it out.
I believe a teacher means teaching you how to learn and what you learn. And a guide is like guardrails.
Okay. Mine is 4 trucks and dream box and 2 trackers on my book.
In 45 minutes? Okay. That's a challenge. That's great.
This is Samantha.
Yes.
So, do I set both math goals?
What do you think? Well, what's best for you in 45 minutes? Is it better for you if you spend that whole time focusing on one subject area? Or do you work better if you break it up? So then that's your decision.
192, 182, 172, 162. 162.
We usually start the day off with either a project time or PE or core skills. And core skills is basically our work time.
It gives us time to work at our own pace and do math and reading and spelling. Dreambox, math. And it's math. It's like you go to this. You go like right here, and then you go to core skills, right? No, it's like you're and there's different lessons. It's different lessons. Yes, it's hard. It's really challenging, and
On Khan Academy, which is math, they have like algebra and geometry and trig, so we set goals for what we want to accomplish in that. And then we set writing goals because there's a journaling question every day. And then we set reading goals for how many books or pages a week.
I read 2 hours a day, mostly.
At public school, I actually almost didn't pass for reading, and now I'm scoring like 10th grade for reading, and we don't even actually work on reading comprehension at school, so it's kind of crazy.
So, question for you. As an entrepreneur, what's the most difficult thing about starting a new venture? As you think about making this, it's not just writing a book, it's best-selling. Is it, can I make it, can I sell it, or can I find the investors? Kinsey?
I think it's can I make it, because if you don't make it, you're taking a really big risk, and it's also a lot of money. So, can you make it?
Agree or disagree?
I agree. I think it's can you make it, because if you never make it, you're not going to be able to sell it, and you're not going to be able to pitch it to investors, so making it is the first step.
Lily? I'll agree. That's an agree. Claire?
I disagree. I think that it would be finding the investors, because if you cannot find the investors, then you don't have the funds to make it, and then you can't sell it.